Sindhoor, how are you? It's lovely to see you, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I love talking to you, know that.
Well, I love talking to you too. And it's actually about how we stop talking rather than how we start talking, isn't it? We've always got so much to say.
Yes, we do.
But Sindhoor, today I want to reminisce a little bit with you, and as well as reminisce, sort of bring it up to the future too, because we met in my mind not that many years ago, but I feel like I've known you years and years in a really lovely way. So explain when we first met. Yeah, you tell the story.
Sure. Of course, we met in the US.
I know.
This was in 2015 or 16, somewhere about there.
It was.
So I was studying with Turid at that time, and she invited you over to conduct a 4-day workshop or 3-day workshop.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 3 days. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And I saw the work you were doing. I mean, you did do demonstrate, some of the techniques, a little bit of the treatment on 2 dogs, if I recollect right, Bear and Sadie, I think. I recollect.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
And the magnitude of impact it had on those 2 dogs in the short span of that workshop just blew my mind away. And to me, I just got very greedy about knowledge. I kind of reached the point where I said, whatever she's doing, I need to know how to do it, and I need to get her to visit my dog and do that on my dog. Those 2 things were, I really wanted that to happen. I'm still not entirely sure why you seem to comply into my grand scheme of things and how this actually went about. But so that was the beginning, I suppose, and we've come a long way from there.
We have. I feel that there was a coming together of minds, actually. When we met, I remember meeting you, and it was almost this, hello. It was almost like I'd met you before, or there was some destiny about meeting you, which was such a lovely thing. And I think if there is such a thing, that destiny is and was, we were on a mission to improve dogs' lives. And that was definitely your mission, and that was definitely my mission, still is for both of us. And I think that was okay, we've met, we're not quite sure how this is going to move forwards, but we know we're going to be working together. It was a bit like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we left off saying we're going to be talking a lot more.
Absolutely.
We didn't know what we're going to be doing, but we definitely knew that this was the beginning of something. It wasn't sort of meet somebody and forget them kind of a thing. And I also think that the fact that I was in Turid's class, the ideas that I was learning from her, and you were bringing in so many of those similar ideas. And of course, today we're going to be discussing a few of those. But I think that heavy overlap on the way I had started to think, and you had already been doing it for a while, to me was not only hugely validating, it also gave me a direction in which I want to go. And I think when that's what it is, right? When you say coming together of the minds, it's that kind of heavy overlap and saying, yes, I think we're talking the same language here. It's very exciting because you don't have too many others talking the same language, if you know what I mean. So I think added hugely to that excitement. I think that's why we've ended up here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I know you gave me the greatest honor of featuring me in your book, and Garland in your book, which sits behind you, Dog Knows, which is a fantastic book. It really is. And I really do recommend everyone reads it. It's a wonderful journey, your journey of knowledge and gaining knowledge and thinking that you know something and then finding out that you really don't. I mean, it's a very honest account. But I think one thing that you really picked up that, well, there were lots of things, but the one thing that I remember you really picking up with after the US training was throwing of the ball, I seem to remember your face was like this when we were talking about that. And I know you took that back and you wrote quite a few articles on it, didn't you? And really, really pushed it as part of what you're doing within your training too.
Yes. And the reason for it is it was a double impact, right? Dual impact, because Turid was saying the same thing, and just coming from a behavioral perspective, and you were coming from a physical perspective on, you know, the impact on the joints and the muscles. And it was an uncomfortable message. And I think that kind of is why it stuck, because it was uncomfortable. It was the fact that what you were saying was making sense, was making the whole thing worse.
Right. Sorry. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because my dog at that time loved playing the ball. I mean, I now call her a tennis ball addict. You know, she loved it. So to think that, two things, to think that I'm going to be taking away from her something that she loves so much.
Yeah.
And two is that she was doing so much of something that was potentially hurting her. Both of those were incredibly uncomfortable messages. But I think if one thing I'm grateful for, I suppose, is that I'm okay with uncomfortable messages. So I took my time a little bit, sulked a little bit, but then I kind of took a step back and looked at it, looked at the behavioral angle, looked at what you were saying, and it made sense. And very reluctantly, when I started kind of incorporating those messages into my work with behavior consulting, I saw what a big difference it started making. Yes.
It really is. It's those little changes. But yeah, it was interesting how that was. I mean, you took on lots of messages, but that was the one that you just really ran with. And yeah, it was wonderful. And you wrote some really, really good articles on it. And of course, sort of going forward a couple of years, we brought a team to India, didn't we? Had the most wonderful time with you all, and that was an amazing experience from beginning to end for all of us.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it's one of those things that you're going to remember for life, right? It's the highlight of, you know, those highlights of your life, those points where you remember and mark out, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
And it's interesting for me is these two conversations that we just had have an interesting overlap. So though I had kind of understood about not getting dogs to run after a ball, not throwing ball for them, not playing fetch with them, I could not exactly convince Uttam that he had to stop doing this.
You're absolutely right. It's a difficult message to spread, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I could not convince my now late husband. I could not convince my husband to not play fetch because my dog loved it, and that's it's very hard to say don't do something that your dog seems to love so much. I shouldn't say loved it. It did look like she loved it. Addiction and love are two different things.
Yes.
But you know, it still looks like a lot like love. So when you visited, there was, I think we were trying to put together some marketing material and educational material and things like that. Yeah. You sent a slow motion video of a dog running after a ball, playing. And I showed that video to Uttam, and he saw that and his jaw just dropped. He watched that, he looked at what it was doing to the muscles, to the joints, the way the dogs were turning. His jaw dropped and he said, you know, if you had shown me this video a few years ago, I would have stopped.
Yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it? We have to demonstrate the messages, but yeah, it's really interesting, really interesting. You could talk, but you need to see, don't you? Really? Yeah.
I think the physical aspect of it is something you need to see, and that is a little easier because you
Yes.
can actually get videos and you can put it on slow motion. And if you have somebody who is a bit of an expert in biomechanics, then they can explain to you
Yeah.
what's going on. And so you can kind of begin to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also have a body. And if we imagine using our body and our joints and our muscles the same way, it's not that difficult to understand. I think the emotional and consequently the behavioral impact of it, that is a lot harder. And I think that's the reason why it takes a lot to get people to not do it, because they
Absolutely.
find it very hard to understand that it can actually have a long-term impact on sort of the physiological indicators in the body and behavior and things like that.
Exactly, because as you say, they look like they're enjoying it. And that's difficult for us because we want our dogs to have fun. But it's great. But Sindhoor, you started your own training organization. You are training lots of people, and it's just going from, I mean, it's just growing and growing, isn't it? You've really taken your dream and you are running with it, which is amazing. It really is. BHARCS is a great organization, and I believe you've actually got some students from the UK and Europe now and all over the place, which is fantastic. It really is. And it's just so wonderful that just those few years ago when we met, I think it was 2015, because it took us a whole 2 years before I could actually get out to India. How far everything's gone and where both our organizations are now, and the absolute joy that we're working so closely together and sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, and hopefully one day soon we will be visiting your shores again.
Yes, I hope so. I hope there's a lot of you visiting us.
Yeah.
You know, some of us visiting you.
It'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to get our student therapists sort of to be communicating more too. That's always been a dream of mine, is to have these cross ideas of ideas and techniques and everything else. It would be amazing. But Sindhoor, can I just thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the reminisce about our meeting and everything and the development of your incredible organization. So thank you very much for joining us on our 20th anniversary. That's a bit scary? That is scary. That means I'm not 24 anymore. I might have to admit to being a bit older. You never know. But look, it's lovely to see you, and thank you so much. And we'll catch up again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on your big achievement. I'm so glad that you exist, Garland exists, and our paths crossed.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. See you soon. Bye-bye.